All right, so we're looking at a graph of a linear equation. I know that because it forms a line, and that's what a linear equation is. And it asks us for the graph. The first thing we want to do is find the x and the y intercepts. So if we look at the point right here, that is going to be our x-intercept, and our x-intercept is at the point -4, 0. And then if we look right here, this is going to be our y-intercept, and our y-intercept is at the point 0, 3. And so now the first part of this word asks us, we want to be able to find the x and the y-intercepts. We've done that part. Now the next part of it is that we need to write the equation in standard form. And so we do need to know that standard form is ax plus by equal to c. And so the first thing that we need to do is, if we have 2 points, we need to be able to find the slope. So I could take and find the slope here using slope formula is the change in y over the change in x. And I can use this as my x1, y1, and this is my x2, y2. And so when I substitute in there, that I would have my y2, 3, minus my y1, 0. That'll give me a 3 in the numerator, over my x2, 0, minus my x1, a -4 minus a -4 will give me a 4, and that will be my slope. Now, I use the formula to find slope. I also could have came over here and on my line counted that this was a +3 up 3 move, and to the right 4, +4 move, and counted to find my slope. So it didn't tell us which way we had to do it, so it would be your call as to how you wanted to do that. Now, the next thing is that if we know the slope, we always want to see if one of the points that we're given was one of the points the y-intercept, because if we are given the y-intercept, then we have enough to write slope-intercept form. And we do have enough information because remember, one of the points that we found was the y-intercept. So now I have enough information to be able to write this into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to have y equals, my slope is 3/4, and my y-intercept is 3. And so now that is my slope-intercept form, but my directions ask me to put it into standard form. So I'm going to have to keep working. I'm going to have to bring this 3/4 over. It'll become a -3/4 x. And then I remember that standard form has to be integers, not allowed to have fractions. So I see a fraction there. I'm going to multiply by the denominator. And so this is going to be a -3x. This is going to be a +4y. And this is going to be a 12. And therefore I found my standard form, which was the second part of our problem right here. All right, let's look at the next problem. The next problem says that in a video game, you earn 7 points for each jewel you find. You earn 4 points for each star that you find. We need to write and graph an equation that represents the number of jewels and stars that you must find to earn 280 points. And so if we look at this, the first thing I need to do is to find my x and my y. So if I were to say that my x is going to equal the number of jewels that I can get, and that y is going to equal the number of stars, I can then set this up into standard form. Because what I hear right here is a total amount, 280 points. That's my C value. So that's my equal 280. Now, what's that 280 made up of? It's made up of 7 points for each one of those joules. How many of them? We don't know. We call that X. And then in addition to that, it's 4 for each star. How many stars? We don't know. We call that Y. So this is our equation in standard form. Okay. Now, we can find very easily two combinations of numbers that we're going to satisfy this equation, and those two would be our X and our Y intercepts. So if we were to look for the X-intercept, once again, the X-intercept is the value of X when Y is equal to 0. That would mean I would take 7X plus 4 times 0 equals 280. This will be gone. And then when I take and divide this out, I'm going to have that X is equal to 40. So what that would tell me by looking at my X-intercepts is that 40 of those joules plus 0 stars would equal the 280. That's one combination that would work. If I would then go ahead and look at my y-intercept, remember that the y-intercept is the value of y when x is equal to 0. I would take my equation, 7x plus 4y equals 280, and in place of the x, I'm going to put in a 0. This would be gone. 4y equals 280. If I divide both sides by 4, y will equal 70. And so what that tells me is that if I have 0 of those joules and 70 stars, that is going to equal 280. What it ultimately does is give me enough information to be able to plot my points and to make my graph. Because if I know that my x-intercept is at 40, 0, I could come over here to 40, 0, and my y-intercept is at 0, 70, go all the way up to 0, 70, and then I can draw my line. All right, let's look at the very last problem. And the last problem says a copier was purchased for $8,400. For tax purposes, the machine depreciates. Depreciate means that it loses value. And it depreciates at a rate of $1,400 per year. As soon as I see here that amount of dollars per year, I know that that is my slope, my rate of change. It's decreasing. It tells me that X is going to represent the number of years after the purchase, and that the value of the copier is Y. And then it gives us the equation, and it gives us the equation as 8,400 minus 1,400x, which is perfectly fine, but we might want to, if you are used to seeing things in the form y equals mx plus b, we might want to take and have it written as y equals negative 1,400x plus 8,400. And our goal here is we want to know what is the y-intercept and what is the x-intercept. And the y-intercept is super easy because if you look at the equation is actually in that y equals mx plus b form. And so the y-intercept is actually the point 0, 8,400. Now, think about what the x and the y in the problem represent, and let's actually explain what this means in the problem. In our problem, we were told that the x value represented the time after it was purchased, and that the y value represents the value of the copier. So when we see that time is 0 here, and this is the value of the copier, what that tells us is the value of the copier was originally, before it started depreciating, $8,400. So when we're asked to interpret what the y-intercept means, we've interpreted it right here, and we've stated the ordered pair right there. Let's look at the x-intercept. So we have to look at the equation y equals negative 1,400x plus 8,400. Remember, the x-intercept is the value of x when y equals 0. So I'll put a 0 in here. And now I need to solve this equation for x. So I'm going to take the 8,400 over to the other side. And then I'm going to divide both sides. And I'm going to get x that is equal to 6. Now, that means my ordered pair of the x-intercept is 6, 0. But let's talk about it, what it means. 6 is the number of years. So what that tells us that is it takes 6 years for the copier to lose all of its value, for the copier to have a value of $0. So this is my interpretation, and this is my ordered pair.